Do you and I ever make lists? What purpose do those lists serve? Maybe we prepare those lists and then wonder where they are, only to be found much later after the fact. Paul loves lists. After making a general statement or setting the bar as high as he could, Paul gets specific. I know teachers and educators set the bar high because if we set it low and we jump right over it, have we done anything? But if we set the bar high and we move ahead, and sometimes we get over the bar, it's kind of like high jumping or pole vaulting. Sometimes you go right over. Sometimes you go right into it. And sometimes you go under it. Any of you ever play limbo? I'm not going to ask you to do it today. You're safe. But it's not easy, is it? We try and sneak under the bar when we play limbo, and we try to jump over the bar if we're high jumping or hurdling or pole vaulting. Paul gets specific in his list. The general statement is, let love be genuine. Don't fake it, he says. Don't go half-heartedly into this loving thing. Make it real. Make it sincere. Put your whole self into it. Love genuinely. Got it? Do we ever get it? Now, says Paul, hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. He divides responsibilities into inside and outside. This is an inside statement. One of the problems we have being Christian in the world today is a tendency to do inside work outside and outside work on the inside. Rules of behavior for the community of faith. This is how we are trying to be. This is who we are trying to be. He describes life within the community as dynamic and in powerful ways. We're connected. We're accountable. We're invested in one another's lives. This difficult work of hating evil and holding fast to good is an inside job. It isn't a call to go out and change the world. This one hurts. This is a call to clean our own house. We're called to not let the world creep in around the edges of our thinking. We're called to root it out, to stand against it, to call one another to a higher standard. We are to be in the business of transforming lives. Sometimes we try to change the world and ourselves with a 2x4 or a baseball bat, don't we? Maybe you don't. But we see something we don't like, and the first thing we do is we go and tell somebody, psst, 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 psst. I didn't know that, but did you know this? Psst, 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 psst. We call that triangulation. So it's 2 against 1 or 1 against 2. Doesn't usually work out very well because the person who is telling you is expecting you to take their side. And so the wedge gets driven in deeper and deeper and deeper. Paul points out that the methodology for change is always love. Years of teaching Sunday school put things in the back of my mind. And I'm pretty certain that the students didn't learn nearly as much as I did. So we used to teach the kids a song about love. And it goes like this. We love because God first loved us. We love because God first loved us. We love, we love, we love. Now can you do that with me? We love because God first loved us. We love because God first loved us. We love, we love, we love because God first loved us. You got it. We also would sing about love. Love, love, love. The gospel in one word is love. Love your neighbor as yourself, for God is love. We recite vows at weddings, and we promise love to one another. But apart from God, there is no love. None. We talk about loving food and loving this and loving that and loving the other. And the next words out of our mouth is, well, I really hate that. A strong word. Our tools are respect and honor and patience and prayer. Not these words. Not judgment, not punishment, not vengeance. We are to put our whole selves into the process. We're to pour out ourselves for the community, for those within the community who are struggling to learn how to live and to love as Christ calls us to love. And we're never to give up. Here's the counting thing that needs to be remembered. You've got the answer to this. I know you do. How many times must I forgive my brother when he sins against me? Is it numbered? No. It's a big number that goes on and on and on. Math teachers in the room besides Caroline? It's kind of like pi. 3.14 blah, 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 and it never ends. God's love for us is never to end. And our love for each other is never to end. We might not like what was done or what was said, but we're still called to love. Paul might have been saying, don't wait. Seize the opportunities that arise. Serve the time. Serve the Lord. Get to work serving the Lord as we work in the lives of those within the community who need our attention. But lest we think that all the work is all inwardly focused, according to Paul, he quickly moves us out. We're called to pay attention to the threshold. Any of you have a threshold at your door at home? If we don't have a threshold, what happens? The wind blows in. And the dirt. And the bugs. And the snow. Sometimes rain. Here's a good one for you. Do you know that dirt keeps? Dirt keeps. It's always dirt until you get it wet. Then it's mud. The threshold. It might be argued that the real work of the church doesn't take place inside or even outside, but on the threshold. The church is found in how the guest is welcomed and included. The spirit of the church is felt by the strangers who find themselves in need or simply in proximity to the church and are caught up in the generous hospitality that draws them in. Having opened the door, Paul runs out with enthusiasm and opportunity, dragging us along. from verse 14 on, we are now living in the world around us. Notice that there is no crusading spirit for living in the world. There's only service and love and honor and respect. The same tools we took up on the inside, but we use them with even more tenderness. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Associate with the lowly. And then the whole vengeance being God's providence thing. God takes care of us. And God takes care of those that we think aren't on the same page as we are. Because we're not always on God's page either, are we? Sometimes we're on the North 40 and God's on the South 80. Preacher's that way too. Friday is going to be a hard day for me. Friday might be a hard day for you as well. I remember that bag of peppermint lifesavers. And it didn't matter whether he was sitting in the second pew or the third pew, or whether he was sitting in the bench outside Cabin Antiques. He always had time for everybody. And I just think back to last Sunday morning when the phone call came. Gordon, I'm just not up to coming this morning. I miss you all. I want to be there, but my body does not. Inside work and outside work. Now, you all have been very good to us. But you know, some of the saints have gone before us that we got really close to. Lorraine, that I don't think Caroline ever got to meet. She's shaking her head yes. And Herb, and Marlon, and many others. And a part of me is that piece of paper torn in half. But what would they say to us today and tomorrow? Work on the threshold. Encourage each other. Their lives weren't perfect and ours aren't either. But you know what? Safety. I just ripped up a piece of paper I should have kept. We're going to get hurt, aren't we? One of the reasons I wasn't going to enter ministry, because I'd seen what churches had done to pastors and to pastors' families, spouse and children. And Tom Snyder, who got very close to me. And when we said goodbye to Tom, I used that piece of music, Friends by Michael W. Smith. Friends are friends forever if the Lord's the Lord of them. And a friend will not say never, because the welcome will not end. But we'll be friends forever, as long as the Lord is the Lord of them. So we struggle, so we won't get hurt. You might say these words to yourself. You don't have to say them to your spouse or to me or anyone else. I'd be willing to do a lot more mission stuff if it didn't cost me so much. I'd be more willing to share my faith, to trust my neighbor, to sacrifice for those who need it if I didn't get taken advantage of. Or if I didn't get the rug pulled out from under me. If I knew everything was going to work out to my advantage, or at least to cause me minimal damage, But that has never been the promise. Safety was never high on Jesus' list of concerns. Why else would Paul be telling us how to respond if he was assuring us that things would never go wrong? No one said this stuff's going to be easy, only that it's worth it. Living in harmony, even with those who don't want to live in harmony with us, is worth the effort it takes. Loving is worth the effort and the rejection we receive. Hope is worth the effort, even when despair seems so much more logical. And now we're to the coals. Remember the coals? Not the store. The coals from the fire. We like to put those on somebody else, don't we? We don't like it so much when somebody puts them on us. We might wish Paul had not said anything about the burning coals. Killing them with kindness is still killing them. But maybe what he was really saying was that cold pleasure we take in getting revenge is nothing compared to the warm joy of serving or healing or helping. So go ahead, heap some coals. It'll do us all some good. But now we tie into Matthew's gospel and find that the only thing we can say is that Jesus is living out Paul's entire list. And then he carefully invites us to do the same. What love could be more genuine than a love that surrenders all? A love that endures suffering for another. Jesus doesn't make a list because he is the list. And as such, he becomes our model and our hope. No, we can't sacrifice our lives on a cross for the salvation of the world. But we can live each day in humble surrender to the need of the other. Seeking to bring justice to a world that is broken and peace to a world tearing itself apart with divisions and hatred that rise up all around us with frightening regularity. Like Peter, we too often wish for an easier faith, a pain-free, risk-free discipleship. God forbid it, Lord. Jesus' response to this outburst reminds us that when we seek such a path, we are in opposition to the work of Jesus in the world. Is it too much of a stretch to imagine that those who preach an easy grace or a comfortable faith are taking the role of Satan in diminishing the power of the Supreme? Genuine love that Jesus and through him all followers seek to live out. Get behind me, Satan. Get in my path. Follow my steps. Do as I do. Stop opposing and start following. Are you willing to do a whole lot more for mission stuff if it didn't cost you so much? Why would you be more willing to share faith, to trust your neighbor, to sacrifice for those who need if you didn't get taken advantage of? If you didn't get the rug pulled out from under you, if you knew everything was going to work out for your advantage, or at least to cause minimal damage? No one said this stuff is going to be easy, only that it's worth it. Living in harmony, even with those who don't want to live in harmony with us, is worth the effort it takes. Living is worth the effort and the rejection we receive. Hope is worth the effort, even when despair seems so much more logical. Living in harmony doesn't mean that you buy the whole lot that somebody's selling. But it also doesn't mean that you hate every word that they say. Somewhere from 1738, no, I'm going to back it up further, from 1 BCE to 2020, we've lost it. Somewhere we've not learned to disagree agreeably. And so, because I don't agree with you, I want to show you a word. I want you to do this with me. Do that with me. Come on. Accident. Accident. Somewhere between that time and today, we've decided it's worth more to fight and grumble and growl and carry on than it is to work together. The mule falls in the ditch on Sunday morning and you're supposed to help it out, right? The couple that got married and the horse stumbles and the groom says that's once. And something else happens and he says and that's twice. And something else happened and that's 3 times. And the groom takes out his gun and he shoots the horse dead. And the wife said that was a little mean and he said that's once. Is that what God's saying to us? That's once? We're to work together. We're to disagree agreeably. We're to make a difference in the world. We don't have to eat that worm that's on the fish hook every time it comes, but we need to look at it. And we need to talk about it. And we need to pray about it. And we need to make a difference in our world and show each other. You have to show me. And the next person, and the next person, and the next person. Because it takes, I don't know how many times to get it through this, and sometimes it's like forgiving. One day the light will come on if we keep turning on the switch. If we just walk by the switch and don't turn it on, it's never going to come on, is it? It isn't going to come on by itself. God gave us a brain, and we need to use it. We need to live because God. Amen.